Hello, this is my first recording on YouTube. Um, I guess I'm gonna introduce myself and talk about my social anxiety. Um, my name is Jason. I've had social anxiety probably most of my life, I would say, in some form. Um, it's kind of developed over my lifespan, and it's just recently I've been really diagnosed. Um, Even though I've been to a doctor and he's not even told me exactly what he thinks it is, but I'm intelligent enough to do my own research. Um, so anyway, um, my whole life I've been characterized as shy or quiet, and ever since I've been young, like preteen years, I've always felt some form of anxiety talking to people, and I've always thought it's just kind of a phase um, that I'll end up growing out of, and it stuck with me in high school. Same thing, just anxious, but never to the point where I that people might have noticed, in that I probably didn't stand out as being weird or whatever, and I could always, I never had any problems with grades or anything like that, but I was never would never participate in a whole lot of extracurricular stuff. Anything that would be initiated by me, I would never get involved in. And then I went to university, and it wasn't so bad there. I had sort of come to, I don't know, come to grips with it. I always thought this is going to be the way I am. So I would just kind of, live with it and keep quiet, I guess, about it. I just figured this is it. It's part of my personality. And I did sort of the same. I treated it almost the same as I treated high school, where I never went to my profs in their office hours. Never really got involved in any extra activities that might have made um, my educational development better. And I could always manage presentations. There was always presentations, high school, university. I'd never had huge problems with those. All my major anxiety would come from one-on-one and any sort of self-evaluation. Like, I would never go and speak to the advisors to talk about what my future would be. That would just be too to anxiety causing, and it wasn't. It was always avoidance that I would fall back on. I would think that, hey, that's going to be really anxious, so I'll just avoid doing it. And same with you know going for treatment or expressing my feelings or emotions to anyone. It was just bottle it up and keep it inside. And so I got through university and went out into the working real world, where everything has to be initiated by me. So I really never went after a career type employment. I took on a sort of hourly wage job, sort of, I guess, what's the term, over educated, I guess. And I worked at the same job for 6 years, and it was a job where I had sort of minimal contact with the public, and minimal contact even with other co-workers. I would kind of speak to maybe a handful of people in a day. And I always told myself, oh, this is just something temporary, that I'll eventually start looking for something that's long term. And my avoidance behaviors just kept going and going, where I would just push that to the back of my mind. And I eventually got to the point in the job where I had more responsibilities. I sort of moved up the ladder, and one of the managing director at the job moved on, and we got a new one who had a sort of the classical type A personality, who's very, I would call him totally demotivational. I don't want to put all the blame on him, but I eventually would dread having to go to work. And then my irrational thoughts took over my rational thoughts of, hey, I need a job, I need something to allow me to pay the bills. And so I decided to quit, and I've taken on a few jobs since then. I took on jobs that I had no hope of succeeding at. The typical call center job. If you've ever seen movies about what goes on at these places, you essentially are answering the telephone every time you put it down. And I've got major telephone anxiety issues, so I didn't last too long at a couple of jobs like that. And it looks like I'm gonna run out of time, so I'll continue this later.